Hello there and welcome to The Grilling. This is a brand new series on Angling Coach TV, and I'm delighted to be joined in this very first episode by Alan Blair from Nash Tackle, and you'll also recognise him no doubt from his series on YouTube, which is Urban Banx. Alan, many thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, mate. Lovely to see you again.
Indeed. If we just kick off, Alan, talking about engaging young people into angling, because I know that's something that we both do a lot of work on.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into angling as a youngster?
Yeah, I suppose like most, mate, I was very, very lucky that my father was a fisherman and he bent over backwards to take me out every weekend, and of course in the summer holidays and even on the odd occasion after school, you know. So yeah, from probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, I was lucky enough to be taken with him. In the very early days, there was a lot of trout fishing, ironically, and I didn't fish myself. I just used to go with him. We'd go for a day on these big reservoirs and I'd sort of watch and learn and listen and explore, and God, I wouldn't want to think how many hours I spent looking in bushes for flies where people have backcasted, caught in the hedgerow, and you know, and that was me, you know, finding fossils. And as I got older and I could actually hold a rod and sort of participate a bit more myself, you know, he used to take me down the river, and that's where I first sort of angled on the river. And then as time went on, I got sort of club books for Milton Keynes, that's where I lived, and we'd go and fish the lakes and the canals, and it just spiralled out of control till the point I was obsessed. You know, as a youngster, I was absolutely obsessed with it. You know, I didn't play football. I did with my pals, but I didn't, you know, I wasn't part of a football team. I didn't play football on a Sunday, for example. I went fishing. It was everything to me. Everything from leaving school on a Friday afternoon, going to the tackle shop to get your bait for Saturday, to, you know, fishing Saturday and Sunday, and then it was school again. But yeah, I started like most, mate, float fishing, progressed on, you know, definitely with a whip, then I progressed on to using a rod and a reel, and it was a sort of era when I was growing up, certainly in my younger teenage years, when the commercial fishery boom came into form. And I think one of the original fisheries of such a sort was a fishery called Hayford Fisheries, and they were one of the first to build these big snake lakes, and also on the site they had a sort of a junior pool and also a carp lake. And go to places like Hayford and Makins and these big sort of up and coming commercial fisheries was my first sort of, you know, first time I got to grips with carp and carp fishing. But yeah, I fished from yay high and still am today.
Brilliant. And above all other sports, what was it about fishing that appealed to you?
I suppose it was my dad, really. You know, had I not have had that father figure there sort of saying, come on, let's go, get me up at 4 a.m. with a, you know, flask of soup and that, and out we go for the day. You know, that obviously I was very, very lucky to have that, but I think I was very much countryside inclined anyway. I went to beavers, cubs and scouts. You know, I liked the whole building fires and making bivouacs and understanding, you know, that's a barn owl and that's a, you know, muntjac deer, and I just was really into nature and stuff. And I think nature and fishing kind of went really, really well hand in hand when you're sort of sitting waiting for the bite. Cliche, I know, but seeing the kingfisher dart past, or just on dusk the bats come out, and it was kind of all of that. I think as I got older in my teenage years, it was, you know, the fact that, you know, some of my pals did do it, and it was a great way of sort of spending time together and stuff. Yeah, but I suppose fundamentally the reason I loved it maybe so much, forget the excitement of the float disappearing and then actually catching something, it was actually being out there and taking in all of the world around you.
And in terms of engaging young people into angling, what do you think the main challenges are at the moment?
Well, again, another cliche, the main challenges are the computer console, you know, and I'm not really speaking from personal experience because I don't have kids of that age that are sitting at home, you know. I certainly speak to enough people who've got young kids or kids between sort of, well, I don't even think it matters anymore. I know my niece, she's only like 10 years old and she's got a mobile phone, you know, and I see these other youngsters sitting on tablets and they're only like 6 or 7 years old, you know. So I think that's probably a big hurdle to get over nowadays, you know, when it's so easy to put on CBeebies or children's TV or give them a computer console and that, and mum and dad can get on with their day and doing the housework or whatever, and the kid's engaging himself into this. That's probably the biggest stumbling block. I hear as well parents are more reluctant to let their kids sort of run off down a canal for a day because of potential dangers and stuff. So I don't really think there's scope for making excuses for it though, Mike. I know, like I've got 2 girls myself now, and I won't be that parent that allows them to sit there at such a young age on mobile phones. iPhones when they're 10 is just a little bit like, wow, like it's pretty mad. So that's probably the biggest hurdle, and just maybe the accessibility of it. The fact that a football's a football. You can go into sport and soccer and buy a football for a tenner, give it to your boys or give it to your kids or whatever, and off they go and play football. Whereas angling, it's a bit more complex in that. You need equipment and you need tackle, and then you need to be able to get to the water to be able to do it. Anyone can go outside the front of their house and play with a football or something, or go for a bike ride. Or angling's probably a bit harder for people to get into because of the amount of equipment and stuff needed. So more than one reason why maybe kids aren't coming into it as much as me and you would like to, for example.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, those that do get into it, why do you think that the carp fishing is so popular with the youngsters?
It's not just the youngsters. I remember my old boss, a gentleman I hold the highest regard for. He kind of helped me get into the industry, and in less or a great degree to where I am today. A guy called Chris, I did my work experience with him. He later went on to run a fisheries management course, and I worked with him for many, many years, and he taught me a fundamental thing in life, and it was the way we started our year with the students. We used to say to him, they'd come in like a cohort of students, sit down. One of the first things we'd ask them is, why do people go fishing? And everyone's got an opinion on it, to get away from the missus, because they like the sunsets, etc. And there's a multitude of reasons why you could enjoy it. But fundamentally, and I have to agree with him, and anyone I speak to would usually agree with me as well, is because people want to catch something big. They want to go home at the end of the day and tell their wife, or go to the pub with their mates and go, mate, it was this big, and carp get that big. Roach don't, gudgeon don't, bream don't, pike do, but they're not as accessible to catches nowadays like a carp is. So I think the reason carp fishing is so popular is they get big, and it's that statement, it's that almost boasting, look, mine was this big kind of thing. They pull back, and I think the equipment and stuff that comes with it, and potentially the excitement of the bite alarm screaming, it kind of ticks a lot of boxes for people. Hence why it is without a doubt the most growing in popularity sector of the sport over, for example, sea fishing or game fishing or match fishing.
And do you think it's necessarily a good idea for youngsters to progress on to carp fishing so quickly?
No, I think it's a dreadful idea. I do, dreadful, But you try telling a 12-year-old who's just watched an Urban Banx episode, actually, mate, you shouldn't really be going carp fishing now. You should, So I'm as much to blame in all of this as anyone else. But does a kiddie want to go and catch 1.5 pound of gudgeon, 25 fish or whatever in the bottom of his keep now? Does he want to go and catch a 10 pound carp? Of course he wants to go and catch a 10 pound carp, So the industry, the way the fisheries are tailored nowadays, the media and the marketing, they're all kind of pushing everyone towards, go catch carp. They're the most exciting.
Yeah, I think certainly when I was growing up and getting into fishing, first of all, the main reason I didn't go carp fishing was because there simply wasn't the place to go and catch them. All I had was like the river or the canal, and there were next to no carp in there, 1 or 2 sort of nomadic ones, but I didn't have a clue how to go about catching them, so I never fished for them. So
and me the same, mate. Like I said, I reckon it was probably around when I was 10 or 12, bearing in mind I'd already fished for a number of years, that these commercial fisheries become available, and then carp became available. Because like you, mate, until before then, some of the bigger lakes had carp in, but I wasn't going to go and start trying to target them or stuff. But when these £5, £7 a day fisheries cropped up, and you could go and throw dog biscuits on the surface, and up came these mouths, of course I followed suit and ended up carp fishing.
And as an older generation, sorry, I am lumping you into that bracket as well as myself.
It's getting that way, though. It is getting that way.
Do you think we're doing enough to engage youngsters into the sport?
I don't think you can ever do enough. I think me and you personally do our bit. If I had 1,000 carp anglers for 1,000 anglers here now and asked every single one of those, do they feel they're doing enough? Probably not. No, in some cases. But for sure, you've only got to look at rod licence sales, you've only got to look at the cohort of members in angling clubs to see that clearly as a trade or an angling community, we are not doing enough. We're not doing enough. I'm not you, Mike, and I feel I do my bit, you know.
Yeah,
but more of us need to do more, and you know, if you want to talk black and white, look at the decline in junior angling licences. So it's there, black and white. We're not doing enough, clearly.
And if somebody was just to come up with you with an unlimited pot of money and go, there you go, use this to engage more young people into angling, what sort of things would you do?
Truthfully, unlimited.
Unlimited.
If it was unlimited, first of all, I'd clone me as many times as possible, because I devote X amount of hours, days a year to putting stuff back into angling with regards to the juniors. But there comes a limit on what I can do. You know, I've got a very busy job and a family, you know, and I can't devote 24/7, 365 days a year to getting kids into the sport as much as I would like to. So, yeah, more people like us that were of that way inclined, that understand there's an issue out there, understand there's not enough kids coming into the sport, and that's really it. Really, it's people. What we need is people who care, people who want to make the difference. Endless pots of money. You know, in every single town, village, city, you would have a body of water that kids could have access to in a safe environment with the equipment they needed to, in the half terms, the holidays, in the summer for an hour or two after school to go there. You know, like these community centres, but it'd be a community fishing resource where people could go there and, you know, fish. And I don't mean by that mum drops kids off, comes back after doing the shot, but it's like everyone engaging and seeing angling as something that, you know, will benefit them in later life. You know, not only as a pastime and to take them potentially off the computer consoles, but also because I truthfully believe through angling you kind of get a grasp on the world to a lesser or greater degree, like morals and etiquette and, you know, right and wrong. And, you know, it's very rare. Okay, you go to fisheries and you see a lot of litter, but they are a small minority in my opinion. The majority of anglers who I know and fish with would never dream of throwing a Coke can out the window of a car, because, you know, that's the way they are with regards to their fishing. But you see litter all over the side of the road verges where other people, you know, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole or stereotypicalise anyone here, but people kind of do drink that can and throw it, whereas I don't think anglers, the vast majority of them, are that way inclined. So yeah, there's more to it than holding that big carp. There's more to it. There's, you know, friendships and understanding the difference between right and wrong and preserving the countryside and nature, and I think as kids they're great things for any youngster to understand and know.
Right, Alan, we're going to talk urban banks now, which is essentially your trademark. So
it is, but
it's certainly become very popular, and it's arguably what you're most well known for. When you started making it, what were your initial aims?
There wasn't any, and I mean that. I've said it before in print, I've said it before on film, and literally we appointed a new chap, Rich Wilby. He'd come from one of the angling publications to act as a journalist for us, and it was in that era where videography and stuff was really starting to boom, and as well as sort of going out and shooting magazine features, he was also asked with the same camera to also try and get a little bit of film. And I was out with him one particular day with another friend, Matt, and Winston, who sort of runs the sort of media at Nash, had said, you know, as well as getting this feature, can you also just do a little bit of film? We were on the Grand Union Canal, we caught a couple of fish, Rich done a bit of filming, I'd done a few bits to camera, and you know, there was no mention prior to that of anything called urban banks, anything. It was just literally pretty much Rich's first attempt at filming something. Winston got hold of it, and, you know, the creative mind he is decided to put a little spin on it called Urban Banx, and we launched it, and it was well received. And we thought, oh, we'll try another one, and we'll call it Urban Banx. And this time we went to Rochford, which we both know. And even then, you know, that was just me and Winston that time. We never then had a plan, so to speak. It was like, well, let's try another little urban thing and see how that comes out. And then that come out, and it, you know, was really starting to gain in popularity, and it just kind of escalated really from there. But no, at no point did we sit down and think, oh yeah, there's a niche in the market here, or okay, you know, let's do. It was very much organic, and it just kind of happened.
And which episode would you say has been your favourite to make so far, if you had to pick one?
Probably the Banx one, just because of the massive
like
adventure. Massive adventure with them, and the fact that we got to visit so many countries and places. If I had to pick an urban Banx, it would probably be Northlands Park, just because of the time of the year it was, and the sheer amount of fish I caught, and the amount of people that come to say hi on the day. You know, they didn't know we were filming down there, but it was so big. It was just, we weren't there for very long. You know, less than 24 hours. And yeah, when I sort of even now sit back and watch the end result, you know, it makes me very proud that, you know, in a short period of time and a bit of fishing, you know, we come out with something so good at the end of it.
And when you see other anglers out on the bank essentially imitating what you're doing in that series, do you find that flattering, or do you find it a bit annoying?
No, absolutely flattering, but I'm not going to sit here and say I created urban fishing. Far from it. You know, I was hugely inspired, you know, mainly the Europeans. You know, long before we ever came up with anything called urban banks, there was guys going out and fishing in the middle of Paris, in the middle of Amsterdam, in the middle of Vienna, and they were out there fishing in these mad urban environments. And I can remember many years ago seeing photos in the magazines and stuff, thinking, wow, well, how cool is that, you know? From my own personal fishing, what we went on to create with regards to urban banks is no different to what I've done all my life. You know, growing up in Milton Keynes, I fished the park lakes. That's what I did. You know, we used to go and get a shopping trolley out of the supermarket, and we used to push our gear to the lake in shopping trolleys along the redways, and it's kind of what I grew up doing. You know, when I moved to Essex to work for Nash, one of the first waters I fished was Rochford Rest. You know, it's what you kind of do. You know, I'm really not big into these syndicate waters and pressured venues and stuff, because I like to go fishing and enjoy it. So places like Rochford and stuff, great. You can go down there, do a few hours or do an evening and catch some beautiful fish. So it's kind of just, my life's just progressed. The only difference now is a camera crew come with me, we stick a bit of drum and bass behind it, but it's actually what fishing I do and enjoy doing.
And in terms of venues, if I said to you, right, you can only ever fish one venue for the rest of your life, which one would you pick?
An urban one?
Any venue for fishing at all? I'll put you on the spot there.
Yeah, you have, because it would probably have to be a river of some description. You know, I'd like to say a canal, but then when you put a canal up against a river's more exciting. A lake is a lake, and if I had to, you know, pick one place, it would be a river of some description. I just love them a lot. Like, they move and they change depending on the floods, and the fish can come and go, and nothing's really set in stone. You know, if you had to say to me, oh, you pick a lake for the rest of your life, there would come a point in my life where I would have achieved all I would want to achieve on the lake, because I maybe would have caught all the fish because they're contained into one area, whereas with a river it's always changing. And
Okay, well that's pretty much bringing us towards the end. In terms of the future, without giving too much away, what sort of things have you got planned fishing wise? The world.
Truthfully, like I try and be realistic and make sort of yearly targets as opposed to longer term targets. But that saying, the world is your oyster, you know, it's all out there for the taking. I'm going to America for the first time in May, to Florida. Never been over there before. I desperately want to go to Tokyo and, you know, fish in Japan and stuff. I'd like to catch a big salmon from Scotland. Where do I start, Mike? There is so much out there, and you know, that just to end, it ends quite nicely. You know, whether I was a footballer or a rugby player, or I jumped out of aeroplanes for fun, or a skateboarder, or whatever. I believe there comes a point in your sporting or pastime career when, you know, enough's enough. You can't keep jumping out of aeroplanes for the rest of your life. You can't keep playing football games for the rest. You know, there's going to come a point where, through age and health, you'll have to say, do you know, enough's enough now. But with fishing, that is never going to happen, because I will carry on going fishing in some capacity till the day I die.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Thank you very much for being the first special guest on the grilling, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, Alan.
Pleasure, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.